Once the data is in, converged and it's in a nice place, we start looking at implementing data platform, governance and best practices. So, understanding the workloads themselves. So understanding, these will all have design decisions based on them. So, how often do I update records and the frequency of the updates, and how big are the updates? That's an important design decision, because I need to understand that to recommend a technology, or to recommend a configuration of the technology. How many operations complete in a transaction? That's another really interesting data point that I need to know when we're recommending the data platform configuration as well. And you can strengthen the databases, the indexing that happens to optimize the databases. How often does that happen? Have you got anything set up for at the moment? Are they all in different formats? Are they all run at different times? Because we want to start bringing them together and start having a data model that aligns itself to some of the best practices we want to start analysing as well. And we start looking at the data types as well, and looking at normalisation, the schemas. There's things that we need to enforce. We need to set some strict guidance around what the schemas look like, and then we need to understand the relationships between data entries in the database, where there's links and where there's relationships within there. Yes, big design decisions need to be made on that as well. Data integrity is a massive part. Any gaps in the data, any elements of doubt that we carve into there, we need to make sure this data is that single version of the truth, and we can trust this data at all points as well. The size of the data entries kind of goes back to some of the other bits as well. So we need to understand the frequency and the size of these data entries. If there's a lot of data entries, that means that we have to configure things in a certain way. But the point of this is that all of these questions, all of these things you may not know about. You may think, well, actually, this is how many transactions I think happens. I'm not entirely sure, or this one's very different to this one. This is what I'd like it to look like. Then we can start guiding you on how this impacts the design of the data platform. And we've got a raft of best practices, reference architectures at our disposal. Microsoft make this very easy for us and partners to be able to do this. We've got a lot of experience deploying services like these as well. But we've also got this framework called the Well Architected Framework that Microsoft and Cloud Direct are very closely aligned to. So we've got the 5 pillars there at the bottom. We've got cost, security, performance, resilience, and operational efficiencies. The 5 there are things that we align any design decision to. So we look at data integrity. So, I need to make sure my data integrity is really high. I have to trust this data source. So therefore, the security of this will be high. So that bar will be high. The resilience of this will be high. But that does have an impact to performance. So that might be a bit low because I'm having to replicate data, because I'm having to do certain checks on the data. It means that performance will suffer because of that. And maybe some of the operational efficiencies will suffer because of that, because I've got extra time running checks and balances on my data. Means that there's some overhead to that. Yet cost could be another overhead. So the way I like looking at this is they're like dials. We can tune the dials based on your requirements. I've got no requirement for data integrity. It comes in, I trust it, I don't trust it, then fine. Security is down, resilience down, performance is up, costs down, operations are up. So it's the dials that we can tune that's based on your requirements from your data, that we all align ourselves to as being your partner that does that as well. Some of the other bits that we've got that in our disposal that helps us, there's design principles. We need to be able to understand how you build services in your environment for best practice, the type of testing methodologies you've got, how robust you test, even things like deployment pipelines, all the way through to testing visualization at the other end of it. What type of monitoring we want to establish in here. I need to know when my pipeline stops, or there's the data goes from I'm ingesting a gig a day to 15 gig a day. Well, what happened there? That's not normal. So it's deviation from normality. That normally means there's something going on. So we need to be able to make sure we capture that as part of that monitoring design decisions as well. Looking at reliability patterns, because we want to be able to make sure that the data is part of that governance pattern that is being brought in as well. What trade-offs you've got by doing this means you have to take this. Okay, well, are these trade-offs acceptable to the business? Yes, no. Okay, if I do this, that means that I've got lower security. Oh, actually, I don't like that. We can't sign that off because we're dealing with personal identifiable data. Okay, let's reverse that decision based on that. That's absolutely fine. But it's knowing that the trade-offs that your business has to make as well. And cost optimization, wouldn't it be lovely if that wasn't an option, but ultimately we've all got budgets, we've all got costs to align to, and we're trying to do this as cost effectively as possible. And what we're able to do is show you back again and again the cost savings, cost optimizations, making sure that the money you're spending and investing in the platform is optimized and well used as well. We look at things, automation, release engineering, so being able to deploy things on demand, scale things on demand, making sure that the environment is as flexible as you want it to be, and then making sure that the workload type is factored into that design decisions as well. And we've got like the well-architected framework, the design principles, the review services. Azure Advisor is a lot more capable than it used to be, and it's able to show us and showcase a lot more information. We have reference architectures, we've got documentation. Microsoft are very good at documenting things, so we've got lots and lots of elements there. And then also there's partners like ourselves that are able to offer our expertise in building data platforms, and then some of the advantages we get within Microsoft's support services as well, for us to be able to leverage them on your behalf as well. So we've got very good, we're an expert MSP at the end of the day, so we've got very close tie-ins with Microsoft and their support and product management ecosystem as well.